And I think we're going.
Thank
Good morning.
you. Good morning and welcome. I am Martha Armstrong. I'm Municipal Councillor for the County of Kings for District 4. And we're here this morning to conduct a public information meeting on a planning application that's been made by Riley Peckford for a development agreement to allow self-storage buildings at 787 Main Street or Highway 1 in Kingston. This is the very first opportunity that the public will have to see this information. At this point, there have been no decisions made. And once this is done, you'll have an opportunity. Mark Fredericks, our planner, will provide you with all the information to get in touch with him at the end of the meeting so that you can provide any comments or concerns that you have to him. But in the meantime, I'm here today with Mark Fredericks, who is the planner on this file, and with Mr. Riley Peckford, who is the owner and applicant. And I guess we'll turn it over to Mark to give us all the details on this particular application. So it's all yours, Mark.
Thanks very much and welcome. Just sharing a screen here. Is that showing up for everyone now?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, welcome. So this is a fairly early meeting in the planning process. We call it a public information meeting. This is regarding an applicant from Riley Peckford, who's with us today for a land use agreement that would permit self-storage buildings behind the property known as 787 Main Street or Highway 1 in Kingston. The purpose of this meeting, this kind of early meeting, is to inform the public of the application, explain some of the planning policies that we review, and to receive some feedback from the surrounding community and the general public as well. But again, we haven't made any decisions yet. So the proposal here is to establish an agreement, a land use agreement called a development agreement for 787 Main Street in Kingston, which would permit construction of self-storage buildings on this property in the rear. And we'll look at that in just a moment. So Kingston is one of the growth centers in the County of Kings. Main Street or Highway 1 runs through Kingston. This is kind of in the eastern portion of Kingston. When you come down off of the 101 from Maple Street, you're relatively close to the Tim Hortons drive-through in this area. So the area is kind of mixed. It's zone C1, which is the general commercial zone, which allows for a whole bunch of different things. And certainly over the history of the Kingston community, there have been many uses in this area, many of which are commercial, some are offices. There's a kitchen cabinet manufacturing facility 2 doors down. And so this is a kind of mixed area. There are some residential homes along Main Street in this section, and there's a mixture of sort of Tim Hortons drive-through and other kind of retail outlets. So there's quite a mixture in this area, but it is all zone C1. So that zoning allows for quite a range of commercial uses. But the C1 zone doesn't allow for self-storage buildings as of right, but we can consider proposals like that through a development agreement process or sometimes through a rezoning process. And these give us an opportunity to find more site-specific controls and apply those when they're necessary or reasonable. So this is just the same map showing aerial photography. What's unique about this property is it's quite deep and it widens out at the back. So this is where the applicant has proposed 3 self-storage buildings located in the back. And it's fairly well buffered too. There's some existing fairly mature trees bordering the back and side lot lines of this property. And this is just a sketch of what that may look like. So this is showing kind of three buildings with traffic aisles of at least 30 feet kind of all the way around them. So the enabling policy, so ultimately what we're doing here is getting an agreement that would allow for self-storage buildings because they're not currently allowed under the C1 zoning. So we're trying to make it a little exception here. And through the municipal planning strategy, we have methods for coming up with these sorts of exceptions by going through a development agreement process where we're able to address any kind of specific site controls. So in our planning strategy, policy 329, it says that council will consider by development agreement in all commercial zones proposals for commercial uses, industrial uses, or mixed use or residential developments even that are not otherwise permitted or cannot meet the applicable commercial zone standards. So that's kind of where we're at. We've got a self-storage facility proposed, which is not a totally inappropriate use for the location, but it's not permitted in the zone standards. So this proposal cannot meet the applicable zone standards. So we have this ability to consider by development agreement those sorts of proposals. And so we can go through this process. And this is where we kind of are finding that this type of agreement is enabled in the planning strategy. But it comes with a set of criteria. And primarily we're looking at the first one, that the conditions that prevent the proposal from being permitted as of right are addressed by the development agreement. So these could be increased buffering or positioning or design of the buildings to help maybe minimize land use conflict. But it seems like what's going on here is that the applicants have found that the property can accommodate self-storage buildings with a fairly significant buffer around them for traffic flow and so on. So we're not terribly concerned with the positioning. I think that the positioning of these buildings seems reasonable, but we will review this and negotiate that with the applicant through the process. The next one is related to residential uses. So if there was a proposal for a residential development here, we would look at that, but this is not applicable and it's super long. So I just kind of abbreviated that. If anyone wants to review that, I can share that information. And then the final criteria is just that we, satisfy the general amendment criteria. And these are the list of criteria that we review for every land use bylaw amendment and every development agreement in the County of Kings. So those general criteria for land use bylaw amendments and development agreements look at whether the proposal is in keeping with the intent of the planning strategy. And in the planning strategy, we kind of describe areas like C1 areas, Main Street areas, and we kind of outline what it is that we're trying to accomplish in these kind of, fairly significant, important streets within our communities. We don't always want them to be industrial, but we also don't want to limit too much. So there's a middle ground. So we describe that in the planning strategy, and we look to see that the proposal is still consistent with that intent. We also look at financial impact on the municipality. In this case, not expecting any, but sometimes there are services or roadways that would then be deeded to the municipality, and sometimes there can be an impact on the municipal finances. But in this case, that wouldn't apply. We do also look at feasibility of services. So these are water, sewer services, as well as roads and infrastructure. So we will consult with the village on some of that, and the County of Kings and the provincial government as well. So there's a lot of reaching out to other departments to satisfy some of these criteria. But these are the sorts of things that we look at. We look at whether the proposal would have an impact on any potential well fields. There aren't any well fields in Kingston, but of course these are general criteria, so they apply across the county. And we also look at site suitability. Is it a super steep, swampy property? In this case, it's not. It's seems quite appropriate, but those are the sorts of things that we try to look at. If it's a giant swamp and someone was trying to propose a large building right there, this is where we would kind of get hung up. We might say, hold on, maybe that site might not be suitable for that. So these are the sorts of general criteria that we review. We will look at these in detail and form a bit of a analysis to each of these in the planning report that would go to the Planning Advisory Committee. And all of that would come in the next few months. So this process here looks like the typical application process. We are at the early stage of the public information meeting here, and we'll do a review, which then goes to, in this case, the Kingston Area Advisory Committee, which then is forwarded to the Planning Advisory Committee, who makes a recommendation to Municipal Council. So this process takes a few months, certainly, and there is a 14-day appeal period at the end. So if you received a letter in the mail to view this recording, you're likely one of the properties within 500 feet, and those properties are notified again for the public hearing stage, which is during the council kind of approval process. This is what the process looks like. And again, we're at the PIM, or public information meeting. And again, that's one of the early stages. We're just kind of looking for general information from the surrounding community. So this is my contact info. My name is Mark Fredericks. I'm a planner. You can reach me by telephone at 690-6276 or by email at mfredericks@countyofkings.ca. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a moment and pass it back to the the chair, Councillor Armstrong.
Thanks very much, Mark. Very thorough. Appreciate it. Riley, Mr. Peckford, would you like to make any comments, pass along anything to anybody who might be listening out there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd say that just our main intent with this building is to work with the village. I know that originally we planned to put it across the street at 768, but after some discussion with the village commission, they were just thinking that might not keep with the look of the downtown core of Kingston on Main Street. So by putting it on 787, the actual road frontage will not change at all. It'll be the same building. When you drive by, you'll see no difference, but all the buildings will be going behind it. We have been talking to local businesses around here, and as you mentioned, there's an industrial manufacturer of cabinets next door to us. There's Tim Hortons. There's a work supply center down the road as well as a metal fabrication shop. And our main interest is to be able to help them out with any needs they might have as well. I've spoken with a couple of them, and they'd be interested in renting some of these spaces in order to help grow their own businesses as well. And as well as residential users, quite a few people have expressed interest in coming and renting these. So there's definitely demand for all this. And we really just want to make sure that we blend these new buildings seamlessly into the surrounding. If you were to look across the street at 778, where the Member of Parliament is located, we're aiming to have the building in similar design to that. So the same type of metal siding that is nice and seamless and goes with the look that we already have here in Kingston. And as you mentioned, Mark, there's a nice buffer of trees around all the property. Your one picture that you did show there of the site is a little out of date because we have expanded the background of it so it actually connects to the Cost Kitchens on one side. So we're connected to a manufacturing plant, and the backyard is also fenced off already all around there, except for the one side with the trees, where we'd be looking to put more fencing in as well in order to accommodate the any other properties that are around it. And I know that some people had expressed concerns about any type of traffic that might come through, but as you know, with self-storage facilities, usually you come in, you drop off your stuff, and you don't come back for 6 months at a time. So the actual traffic that comes through is very limited. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to really mention about it, but I'm happy to answer any more questions and make sure really our goal is just to seamlessly blend it in with the rest of the landscape around here so that you hardly even know it's there, but yet it is able to satisfy a demand for extra storage as our local village keeps growing.
It's great.
Great.
Thanks, Riley.
I appreciate that, Riley. So we've pretty much got over most of the work out of the way. So again, I'll make it clear that this is the very first step in this planning application process. The members of the public will have at least, I think, 3 or 4 other opportunities to deal with this, whether it be in the planning advisory, the Kingston area advisory, or in public meetings moving forward. So there's still lots of time. But for today, as Mark put up on the screen, his information is available. He is there for you to ask questions of, or to bring forward concerns or questions that you may have. And if those questions or concerns are for Riley, I'm sure he would forward them on and get answers for you. So thank you all for your time. And we'll probably all be seeing each other and some more people. And this will be posted on the website for, I believe it's 30 days. Am I correct, Mark?
Yeah, at least 30 days. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. So I appreciate everybody coming this morning. It was great, short, sweet, and to the point. That's the way we like them. So I appreciate your time, and thank you very much. And we'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.